Hey there, Mike Dunn with Gaming Trend here at PAX Unplugged 2025, and we are once again getting the wonderful opportunity to sit and chat with Rowan Hall and Spenser Starke, two of the main designers of Daggerheart.
Yeah.
And of course, I've got John Farrell here. If you're familiar with Daggerheart and our coverage of Daggerheart on Gaming Trend, John and I co-wrote the review of Daggerheart, which, spoiler alert, we really liked it.
Thank
and
you.
So you guys had a big announcement this week.
Yeah. We announced Daggerheart, Hope and Fear, which is the sort of next book that we're doing for Daggerheart. It's a core expansion for the game, so we're releasing a bunch of new classes and adversaries and environments, as well as new campaign frames and more loot and all kinds of fun things. A new domain that goes in the game as well, which contributes to the classes. So lots of new stuff coming down the line in summer of 2026.
Very nice, very nice. And I know you guys announced a lot at Gen Con too.
Yeah.
Which is why we gave you guys a Best of Gen Con award.
Thank you.
I believe it was Best Sign of Things to Come. And
It's framed in our office.
It is.
That's lovely, lovely. I'm happy to see that you guys are really continuing to push because I don't know how many printings of the core book, the first core book, have been done at this point.
I don't even know. I just know that we keep selling out and we keep having to print more and we keep thinking that we've printed enough and then it's not enough. And so that is it's exceeded all of our wildest dreams, how the game has been received. So we feel very lucky.
Yeah, we're just trying to, as much as we possibly can. Oh, thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
Yeah.
Keep it on shelves in local game stores
Yeah.
and just keep it coming. So I don't even know where we're at this point.
I was gonna say I'm very lucky. I don't have to keep track. I can just make games, and I feel very blessed to not have to do that.
Well, if I recall, at Gen Con, it was somewhere around 5, the 5th printing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was a few months ago, and there's no telling, especially with the holiday season looming, right?
I know.
So, well, awesome. John, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so the last time we talked, it was a little before Daggerheart launched, and we're in a very different space now. So
Yeah.
I've sort of got a two-part question. One is just what has it been like having it be received by an audience, seeing people playing it and responding to it, but also how is that informing this next release you're doing, and any changes you may be making or thinking about, because sort of rubber's hitting the road now, people are playing it, it's out
Yeah.
in stores, and this next release you're going to do is going to help shape what the game is like going forward and how it's received.
Yeah, we were in development on it for 4 years, not just like making only this game, but making other stuff at the same time. But from the time that it was sort of like greenlit to when it was released was 4 years. Just a very long time to be sitting with a game. With a game of this size, I think that's about right. And also, it's a lot of time to be sitting sort of quote unquote alone. So the open beta was really nice because we got a lot of feedback very quickly in at a scale that we weren't able to get without that kind of playtest size. And so release was a lot of that same kind of feeling where you're like, okay, we finished this, now it's going up, and now hundreds of thousands of people are looking at it in the first week that it's out. What is it, how do we monitor what it is that we should be worried about, we should keep track of? How do we let go of the things that we know the game was not designed to do and that people want to? So it's like a lot about weeding out, I think, for us, the response so that we're able to get the things that are really important. And so Hope and Fear kind of addresses a lot of the work that we were doing in core that we didn't think was right for that book. Meaning, like, we had already developed a lot of this stuff or had ideas about a lot of this stuff that we wanted to make. And we were like, that doesn't belong in the core book, but we can see it for a book down the line. And so taking the feedback that we've gotten and what people want, people obviously really wanted the Warlock. That was one of the big asks that we had. People wanted kind of a brawler kind of character, somebody who doesn't fight with a weapon. And so that was one of the big ones. And then people, I think, also had a response to the rogue of being like, the rogue is so magical, I want something that's a little more grounded. And so the assassin feels like it hits a little more of those tropes in a fun way. And we're like, that's just not our rogue, but if you want that kind of rogue, we can make that, right?
Well, we've had a Midnight and Blade combination sitting quietly off to the side for a long time because we knew it couldn't go in core. And so it just had to wait. And the good thing about being finished with core and moving into a new book is while we were making core, we were constantly deciding and calibrating what Daggerheart is. And now that we have what Daggerheart is somewhat locked down, albeit flexibly, as we're going into this expansion, we can kind of treat Daggerheart like this entity, where we say, like, is this something that Daggerheart needs? Is this something that is right for Daggerheart?
Right. You've laid the foundation, and now it's time to see where that which direction things sprout into.
Yeah, and in Hope and Fear, we've allowed ourselves to explore areas that core didn't explore in some fun ways. And because we have kind of the main set out, we can go a little bit further this direction and know that you are opting in to that experience. If you want to go, if you want to go here, you want to go there, like there's a central place that the game starts from, and then everything in Hope and Fear is an opt-in experience. So it's like if if you want to add transformations to your game, if you want to be a vampire or werewolf or any of these kinds of things, those aren't decisions that you are making necessarily at character creation like you would be in core outright, meaning that they aren't just like blanket. Everything in Hope and Fear is not like blanket on the table. It's like, hey, if your campaign would be appropriate to include these new things, then you can certainly make them available. But they are all opt-in, which means that we can have a little more space, a little more wiggle room in what we, like the mechanics that we explore.
And all of that brings up some interesting questions about where you see Daggerheart mechanically and what kind of narratives that informs, because something I've seen not just in discussion of your game, but a lot of similar games and something key to RPGs is people may come into them disliking certain aspects, not because the game is bad, but because they're just using assumptions from a different game or trying to get an experience it's not built for. We talked about this in our review of Daggerheart, that there are certain things that, like, D&D is not a bad game necessarily, but it may be bad at a certain type of experience that it doesn't support because it's built to support a different experience. And so now you've seen people playing it more, you've got time to develop it, and you're releasing more material for it. I'm just interested how you draw those lines of like what Daggerheart is appropriate for and what you're designing for, and then what other areas you could expand into you're not going to because those don't fit the game that you've built.
That is a good question. Yeah. I mean, we always had a really clear idea of what Daggerheart is and what we were striving for and our North Stars. And so Daggerheart is narrative forward and it encourages collaboration. But I think now, one of the things that I'm most excited about in the expansion is we have a campaign frame that has a hex crawl. And Spenser and Rob and Joey and
Joey Hayek and James
all worked so hard on that and making a hex crawl that still feels true to Daggerheart while capturing that narrative forward approach. So I would say it is an expansion. I hate to be cliche about that.
Yeah, well, I think the hex crawl is a great example because we went through lots of iterations in trying to figure out how to do it. And the question for us was like, is it right for this game in general? Well, in fantasy, a lot of classic Lord of the Rings fantasy is travel. So how do we do journeying, right? Not just travel, but like, how do we do a journey in Daggerheart? And that was kind of where we started. And we were like, if we can crack a hex crawl in a narrative forward game, that feels like it's, like, what is our take on it? Like, how would you do this in Daggerheart? And that was a big challenge. And so I think you'll see us kind of trying those things in this expansion in a way that I'm excited for. And also, everything that we're making still fits on cards. And I think that's one of the big, important things for us, is like, we are not writing, the domain card features aren't huge blocks of text. They are very streamlined. They're very pointed. The streamlined nature of the game is something that's really important. And in doing something like, to take the hex crawl example, doing something like a hex crawl, we knew we needed to stay in the spirit of Daggerheart, even with some kind of old school OSR kind of feel mechanic being implemented into that campaign frame. And you can choose to use that campaign frame mechanic in other things if you want to, but that campaign in specific has a purpose for why all those mechanics are there.
And just to be clear, the new set does come with more additional cards. Just like the core set. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Always.
So just to speak on the cards for a minute, I know that creatively speaking, that it is generally better to kind of constrain yourself within a certain boundaries and then explore what you can do within that. Is that how you guys kind of approached the cards in that respect? Like, because you were saying they were streamlined.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good question. I feel like we've been designing for Daggerheart for a hot minute now, so I'm almost like, well, I don't even know. But one of the most fun things that we had for the expansion that we didn't have in core was the card creator. So we could just whip up cards using the same tool everybody else is using and practice and have them already in layout. And we have, of course, layouts built behind the scenes, but sometimes when you have an idea at 3 a.m., it's really nice to pull up a web page and just drop it down and open up a whole InDesign file and rebuilding the entire thing. But when we all sit down first with an idea, I think the Warlock is a pretty good example of this. We figure out what story we're trying to tell with the Warlock. So the Warlock, the classic trope is you sell your soul to a higher power for magical power. And then we figure out mechanics that support that. And I'm pretty sure the first iteration of the Warlock didn't fit on cards or sheets or anything for that matter, because we allow ourselves to get it all down on paper and then go from there. But most of Daggerheart is streamlining and then streamlining again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tend to build in InDesign when I can.
Interesting.
And so...
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so when I'm like building class features, like for Warlock, we'll talk about lots of ideas and sketch ideas down on the page, but then when I actually go to translate it, or we go to translate it, whoever's doing it, we will go into InDesign and start writing and be like, wow, that's way too big, or oh, that doesn't take up nearly as much space as I thought. This is going to take up, I actually have room for another class feature here if we need it. So I mean, a lot of that work is like looking at the constraints of the medium and then allowing ourselves to build mechanics that work for that. I think that's a really cool challenge, and I've made games on cards for like basically my entire career. Like that has been one of my favorite things because I think that they allow you to have an accessibility at the table that is a lot. Like there's something special about it, I think, for me. And in Daggerheart, having the opportunity to also have art on those cards, every single card, so that when I'm looking at my hand of cards, I'm not trying to read the text, but I'm going, oh yeah, I remember what I can do with that card that looks like a fireball because it's a fireball, right? like it looks like that, and then that's what I can do. And so, when we've been designing all of this, is about, especially like with the Warlock in particular, just to go kind of down that path once again. When we were talking about what kind of pact you are making as a Warlock, there are many options for how you approach that. I think generally with people who are coming from D&D, they're looking at like, who you are making that pact with. And so when
What kind of spells it'll give you.
Right. And so when we were looking at it, we were like, okay, well, what is interesting to us about the Warlock? Really, it's about like, why are you making, from a narrative perspective, it's why are you making that pact?
Why are you so driven to desperation that you're willing to sell your soul for power? Especially in a world where you could just be a wizard. Like, mechanics aside, theoretically, any magic having human in a Daggerheart world could just go to school for a hot second. So why are you selling your soul, and how do we make it worth it?
Yeah.
And that's a really fun discussion, because as long as we can, we keep it in the narrative space, and the mechanics flow from that.
Yeah.
And I don't experience the cards negatively at all. I love the constraints. They make me such a better designer in the end.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it doesn't fit on a card, it's not right. And it's such an easy way to know.
Yeah. Trying to stick 5 pounds of stuff into a 1 pound bag generally means you might want to trim that down.
Well, you know immediately when it breaks, too.
Right, yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
it's helpful.
Yeah, and I think, to me, the worst part of making characters with people and playing the game and in certain actual plays is, what does this feat do? Wait, no, it's on the next page, which the card just gives you. This is your list of abilities. You get at higher levels, and you get the ability to switch them out over time, and then using them more as a physical object, which brings forward lots of interesting design decisions about, like, a Deadlands X-esque huckster character that does interesting things with cards and cheating. And I am interested in specifically what you're talking about, how that informs your design choices for a character. So a warlock makes a deal for power. You have to think about why they're making that decision, what it leads to for them, but also in a more brass tacks rules set, how does that inform the decisions you make about the physical cards in your hand and the abilities that communicates for the character?
Well, and also to just kind of interject there for a minute, in a previous life, I was a user experience designer. I may have mentioned this before. And one of the key points that I made in my part of the review that we wrote was how usable the cards were, and especially the way you did the sidecar on the character sheets, that. That was like, yes, I like this. I like this a lot.
I'm so glad. Well, I think one of the big questions we have with classes, because there's different ways of approaching making classes in Daggerheart, and one of the first things we have to tackle is, like, are we making a class because there's a demand either from us, we're really excited about something, a concept, or we're seeing the audience go, we really want this kind of class, right? Are we coming from a concept place, which is like, we know we want to make a warlock? Or are we coming from we really want to combine these two domains, let's figure out what those two in combination are for us. And so with a warlock, we looked at the stuff from core and we were like, okay, I think if we're going to make this, we specifically need to make cards that feel like they match for this. And and then there's the question of, like, okay, if we're going to make a different domain, domains are only ever, like, kind of a third. I mean, they're kind of a half, but I like to think about them as a third of the character, because there's the class features and the subclass cards, and then there's the domains, and the domains combine together, 2 of them, to make a class. So, like, okay, what domains need to combine? What are we using? And then from there, if we don't have 2 domains that currently work, we have 1, and maybe we need to make another one. What else can that domain be used for, so that we're not designing a domain for a class? We're designing a domain and then allowing classes to fill in the space of the combination of those domains, which is where Dread came from. So we have the Witch and the Warlock that both use those, but in different ways. Witch is is Sage and Dread, and Warlock is Dread and Grace, right? So you sort of have these combinations that form different ideas. And so the concept of the cards for us, and thinking about that, is like, okay, the experience is going to be, you're looking at all these. How do these cards, these physical artifacts that are in front of you, how can we inform the player about what the kind of character we're expecting them to play is by making sure those cards align with that archetype.
And both domains have to be viable option for each class.
Yeah.
You know, we can't decide how an individual imagines their character specifically. Someone might want to go all in on a domain, for example.
Yeah, you don't want to lock them into a narrow path.
Exactly. We don't want to secretly have it be one domain and then another was tacked on. So there's a bit of playtesting on that front as well.
Yeah.
And has there been a point yet, or if not, maybe it will come, when you've realized you have two domains that don't have a class assigned to them, and then you start asking the question of like, what kind of class would be Dread and Grace, or something along those lines?
Assassin? I think that's somewhat
Assassin and Brawler. Yeah.
Assassin and Brawler.
Yeah, those are like, we really love these two domains together, and we also had an idea for what they could be. I mean, some naturally lend themselves to like, let's look at these two. I mean, Elise, who's sitting just off camera, made for us a domain wedge, which is like, here are all the domains paired up with every other domain, and here are all the places that we filled in that we already have stuff.
And they can't be paired up with each other, so there's blocked off
so
areas.
So it's a blocked off area, which is why it's not square, it's a wedge. And then we go, okay, what is exciting for us within that? And you know, if we're looking at something like a Brawler, we're like, well, for us, it's very obvious that's Valor and Bone, right? Like, just off the bat, we're like, that fills in perfectly. But there's other ones that, you know, we have ideas for, but that, like, maybe aren't obvious when you first look at them. Like we have the domain Midnight, and then we have Splendor. Okay, well, if you combine those two, that's, you know, sort of Midnight, dark magic, and Splendor is like healing. What could we make there that is, from a character concept, that would be really interesting? Well, there's a number of ways you could go with that, and making those decisions are kind of the fun, exploratory design we get to do.
Well, and then we have to weed it out and go, is this okay for a one-off? Can it support at least two subclasses, and ideally, potentially more? Because there's always, we try to leave ourselves room for as long as we possibly can to keep going into the future. So there's just, it's a bit of,
It's the challenge of like making something narrow enough so that it's interesting,
Yeah.
but with enough latitude so that there's flexibility.
yeah.
Yeah, and like, when does a subclass become what should just be a different class?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, there's always that issue of like, when are we expanding so far outside that? And I think one of the other things people were asking about during the beta, and then now that we've released Core with everybody who's bought it, there are some people who are like, hey, why can't we just build our own class why is it not classless, and you can take any two domains, or like a class gives you a domain and you can choose another one? And first of all, homebrew, you can do whatever you want. Right? But you can do whatever you want. But secondly, one of the really important pieces was that we made classes feel like they had an identity. And part of that identity is like, you have these two domains, and if you change a domain, you're changing that class's identity in a pretty drastic way. And so it should probably be a different class. And there's a world in which we designed a game where every class had a domain, and then you could combine it with whatever, and that was like the way in which it worked. And that's just not the game we were interested in. We wanted to scope down a little bit on classes and have a couple of subclasses inside of there with the option of expanding further if needed. But like Core, we wanted to make it so that somebody who had never played a role-playing game, or who had maybe played, you know, some role-playing games a handful of times, could sit down, they'd look at the book, they'd take the domains that they wanted, or the domains that they got from their class, they'd answer some questions, and they're often playing very quickly, as opposed to sitting down and weighing, okay, I have Blade, am I gonna take, ooh, bless you, I have Blade, am I gonna take Bone, or am I gonna take Grace? Okay, let me look at all the cards from all of those, from all the levels, and see where I want to spec out to.
Well, and in the same way that the cards constraint breeds better design. I think the constraint of having 2 domains breeds really clever character ideas. And when people ask, why didn't you make it so you can do this and this? I'm usually like, have you considered game design? I think you might like it. That's like, come, homebrew, game design, share your ideas with other people.
Unfortunately, we always talk about this all the time, but we're like, unfortunately for us, any homebrew we do is just game design.
Yes.
So, like, we're not the designers of the game. So any design that any of us do, we're like, oh no, we're just game designing again. Well, how do we? And so, can we separate homebrew from game design? Because there's some ideas that are really good for homebrew, but that don't work for releasing in a book, right?
Right. And it's funny, like the wedge concept, right? Actually, kind of sparked something in with me, like thinking about the possibility of introducing concepts like multi-class or changing your class. Like it feels like the domains might actually domains might actually contribute to how you might be able to do that. Like if you decide to change a class or multi-class, maybe it's like, well, you would have to. Maybe you could only do it with another class that shares one of the domains in the class that you're already in.
So we have
So
multiclassing.
when you multiclass in Daggerheart Core, you have to choose one of the domains from the class that you're multiclassing into. So you essentially get a third domain.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I really love the moment of decision about what part of this class's identity am I most drawn to, because I can't have all of it. Otherwise, that would have been my class.
Right.
And
So you guys already did that, and
Yeah.
I just forgot.
No, that's okay. I mean, look, the game is big, right? And
Yes.
and exploring all of it is going to take time for people. And I love that people are still discovering stuff. But in that multiclassing area, like you're forced to make some decisions. And one of the really fun things that we've found with multiclassing in Daggerheart is that there are some really cool synergies that you can find. There's some really neat, like...
the min-maxers always find the craziest stuff.
Yeah,
It's
right.
awesome.
And so it's really fun because
So
you can start to min-max your character if that's something that you're interested in. There's ways that you can go that make your character more powerful. And I think also one of the really fun things is that you choose whatever domain you want. You get to take domain cards from half your level rounded up, so you're never getting the full power of those domain cards. And the other one that is really fun is that in multiclassing, you are getting your class feature, but you're not getting their hope feature. So you're getting like a little bit, you're getting some of that class, but not all of it. Anyway, you're making choices about what it is that, that is important to you, and then you're so like if you were that full class, you would get the whole breadth of features, but you don't.
Right.
So how do you navigate that? What do you want to go into? What kind of domains are you interested in?
Interesting. So I know, just to briefly talk about kind of how you guys are formatting this expansion as you continue to expand the game. I know a lot of other systems, most notably, of course, D&D,
Sure.
Generally have often tried to kind of separate player rules and things for the players from things from for the GM. Obviously, you guys made one book for all.
Yeah.
With the first set, and it looks like you guys are repeating that approach. And I guess what my question is what made you guys decide to continue that? Because I think a lot of people might have been expecting you to kind of like dive into deeper, maybe into the GM direction with future supplements. And what kind of feedback are you guys getting in regards to that?
Well, I don't want to speak for you.
Sure.
But you might have different thoughts on this. But because Core did have everything for everyone, it was only natural, I think, to have the expansion also be that way. And it is an expansion on Core in that it is... In Daggerheart in Core, we try to leave space for people to design really specific worlds. So some games, I think 5e also will expand and make a really niche specific world, and they'll put their expansion in there. And we're not approaching it that way. And I think there are a lot of games that bundle everything for everyone in their editions. And I know that for folks who are coming from having like the beautiful 3 books on their shelves, it might be a little bit surprising. I will say in my head, I have a little bit of a headcanon that having everything bundled together will also lead to more players feeling like they can GM. Like they'll buy it from a player facing point and they'll be like, oh, well, it's just another chapter. I can jump in. But I'll admit that's me, Rowan, maybe as more of a person than a designer, having that dream.
Well, I was going to say the same thing, that I think that bundling it all together means that, there's a lot, like you said, a lot of games that do come with everything in one book, and they just don't tend, like D&D just doesn't tend to do that, but the sort of indie side of games that we love and come from as well, that is more the norm, and we want people to be encouraged to buy a book and have everything they need, whether they want to run or play. But I also do think that this is we're very intentional with this being a core expansion, meaning that it is taking everything from core and just giving you a little more of it. So no matter which way you turn from core, you're just getting, like, you want more adversaries? There's more adversaries. You want more items? There's more items. You want more classes? There's more classes, right? So a core expansion being quite literally an expansion of core. Now that doesn't take off the table, and we've I think already teased some of this, of like, us going a book that is specifically a campaign book, or specifically a setting book, right? And those are going to be inherently more GM focused.
Yeah.
And so I think we can do both, and I think that especially early on in the lifespan of this product, that we've had a lot of feedback, as you were asking, like a lot of feedback from players that they want more options because they're coming over from other systems that have those options available.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, if we know that those players are asking for us to fill some of the gaps, that they can bring over a character that they've been playing for 5 years, then we know that we need to do that. And we know that that's a space we need to fill. And also, GMs are like, we want more adversaries or more environments.
Right.
And we're like, cool, okay, well, in order to fulfill
GMs are voracious.
They're voracious. Well, and it makes sense, right? Like, if they're running a game every week and they need new adversaries, and they aren't comfortable yet homebrewing every adversary in their system or taking things and sort of cobbling them together, they're looking to the book to be like, I need to run a dragon. What can I use from the book that is a dragon? There are a couple of dragons in core, but what if I don't want one of those? So if I want something different, okay, I need more that I can use. So like, totally makes sense. And that's the feedback we've seen. So we're like, great. First out of the gate, let's just give everybody a little bit of something to help boost that, and then we can be more specific as we go.
Well, and also part of the reason we were so focused on making core a really strong foundation is because we want to be able to build on it in a lot of different ways. And I think there's sometimes a misconception in the TTRPG space that just because you didn't make one choice this time, that you won't go that route another time.
Right.
And hopefully we get to keep publishing books for a long minute, maybe a decade or more if we're lucky. I think Elise and Spenser and
You've got a pretty good start.
the whole team, we're really focused on the health of the game and the health of the team and being able to keep doing it. So we wanted to make our first step out of the gate as strategic as we could possibly manage.
Yeah, I think one more thing to add onto there is that we're also being very strategic and very careful about how often we release domains.
For real.
Yeah, because that, I feel like, is one of the biggest places that we can get bloat. If you release more adversaries, or if you release, more campaign frames, you aren't necessarily, or even a thing like transformations, where it's like an optional piece that you can add on if this thing exists in your game. You don't bloat the game as quickly as if you just start releasing new domains in the same cadence as something like new sets of magic, right? It's just like, after a while, you're going to have like 85 class options, and it's like that's not manageable. And so that's strategically why we're saying, hey, Hope and Fear has one new domain that you can explore, and that's sort of the fear side, and then we have hopeful stuff all throughout the book as well. But we're not releasing 2 new domains with 8 new classes. It's like we're being very focused and very precise with how that happens. And then there's always the option of players taking the domain that we've released with the 2 new classes that we have and pairing them with their own with domains that currently exist in core and making their own classes off of there. I mean, every domain that we release has the option of becoming even more classes.
And I at least did the math, and there's over 56,000 options in Daggerheart once the expansion releases.
Elisa's raising her hand.
I have an unfortunate update. You brought up multiclassing. That's another vector to compute.
Oh my god, we didn't compute
I
that.
did not compute multiclassing. It's over 1 million combinations.
I love you.
It's over 1 million combinations.
Okay.
Wow.
So there's over 1 million combinations in Daggerheart after the expansion releases. We love you.
And you heard it here first.
And I think some of the time when people are like more, I do a little bit feel like we're like trying to be really good, smart parents. And I'm like, I want you to be healthy and have strong bones. And I have to make sure you eat your vegetables.
Yep.
And so when like with domains, we have to be really smart about how we expand this game. And so I think there are approaches that are a little more snacky, that are like campaign frames and adventures and optional, anything,
adversaries,
anything we add on that is optional. And then there's like, this is the meat and potatoes, fam. This is dinner, and we got to be really smart about it and remind people that we have 1 million options, or we will by summer 2026.
Which actually, you just brought that up. I was about to ask.
Yeah.
When this is coming out? When? Summer 2026.
Summer 2026 is when it's going to launch. We are currently working on it right now. So the stuff that you see at the booth is not final. The art that you're seeing online is very cool, and also everything, like all the product mock-ups and stuff, are not final. We're gonna head out of here. Literally, our suitcases are sitting right there. We're gonna leave here, go do signings, then get on a plane, and then go finish Hope and Fear, and that will be going to print. So yeah, there's still work to be done, and but we're really excited about where we're landing with everything, and we just got to get files to print so we can get you the book.
Well, and then there's all that fun stuff you had in the Kickstarter too, right?
Oh yeah, I mean we have all the class packs that are coming out, and luckily for us, the class packs are things that have already been published, and with the class packs we really wanted to get people the option of how to engage at the friendly local game stores in a way that wasn't as expensive as buying a $60 book, right? So like you can walk in and buy a thing for $25 and sit down and play, and you're ready to go, and you have everything that you need to be able to like make a character. And as we all know, manufacturing and paper and shipping are all incredibly expensive, and so it costs a lot of time and energy to put out any major product. And so everything we can do to say like, okay, we can get something that is sub $30, that's on the shelves, that people can walk into game stores and buy and can activate them in the game, that's a win for us. And so, and also uses stuff we've already developed so that our focus can be on the future for players and GMs who want new content. So all of that is just like an effort to get people to be able to buy in at whatever level they can. But yeah, it's always a challenge creating a product line, and we're through raccoons in a trench coat, doing our best to make the best game we possibly can for people.
Lovely. Well, I think we got time for one more quick question,
Yeah.
and I'm going to make it a fun one.
Yeah.
The game is out. People have been playing it for a while, and I can only imagine some of the things that you guys have seen with this thing that you created, with this baby you birthed. What are some of the wildest, wackiest things that people have done with this creation.
Do you have anything?
What, you were telling me this the other day. This is like a story from a story, but I think someone is playing a motherboard campaign, and they are also
Science
using
fantasy campaign.
science
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
fantasy. Horizon Zero Dawn meets Mortal Engines, and they are playing a person that is reanimated, so they're using the reanimated transformation from the void, but they're rebuilding themselves with parts from the creatures that they're killing, with robot parts. And they've homebrewed essentially that you don't need living material to patch up your reanimated self, which is one of the mechanics, that they can do it with robot parts. And my first question was, eventually, will you be so patched up you'll take Clank as an ancestry? Like, will your GM let you sub that in?
Theseus's ship problem, right?
Yes, isn't that good? It's so good.
I mean, people have been doing some wild stuff, but I'm really thankful for the people that have taken it and used it to run their own actual plays. So yeah, there's a bunch of really great ones. Dodoborn is one that we just uplifted on Darrington, and they are fantastic, and it's so fun. And I also really love seeing the spread of tones that the campaigns are taking. So like some people are running really intense campaigns, and some people are running just silly little guys, and all of that is supported. And using different campaign frames, you can do that. But even if you're building your own campaign frame at home, or just running a completely homebrewed campaign, not even using our campaign frame structure, like seeing that people are able to use it to tell stories about silly little guys and also heartbreaking tales of heroes trying their best to save the day, and sometimes those are both in the same campaign at once.
Good.
Like,
Lovely.
I love being able to see that. Yeah, you have something else?
Speaking of which, are you playing a silly little ribbit? Spenser loves ribbits. Do you have art of your silly little ribbit? Send it to Spenser.
It makes me so happy.
He gets so excited anytime any of us bring ribbit art that people have posted online of their characters. So we appreciate all the dopamine.
The ribbit is my boy, but any of the art. I mean, we have people that are drawing incredible OC art,
So good.
and that's one of my favorite things too. Is just seeing people imagining or reimagining what that ancestry could be. Right? They're like, yeah, it's a fun girl, but I really am making it like a stalk of asparagus as a character, and you're like, incredible.
Is someone doing that?
No, but I want to do it now. Anyway, all of that is good, and yeah, please keep making wild stuff. We're excited to see all the things that you make.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks again for talking with us again.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
I think we should continue doing this and continue doing checkups like this. Maybe we'll check in with you guys again as we get closer, or right after. Actually, yeah, whenever you guys are ready, because I know you're busy.
Will you build a stalk of asparagus character in the meantime?
Yes. Challenge accepted. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you. It's so good to see both of you.